The massive space station hung like a jewel against the black void of space. Inside its gleaming halls, Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim walked slowly toward the main council chamber. His black diplomatic suit was perfectly pressed, his face calm and professional. But his hands trembled slightly as he carried the datapad containing Earth's final plea. For 3 long years, humanity had followed every rule the Galactic Council demanded. They paid enormous tribute fees that drained entire planetary budgets. They waited patiently in long lines for simple permissions. They bowed their heads when alien delegates insulted them in the corridors. Today was supposed to be different. Today, Earth would finally get mining rights in the Kepler 442 system. The system contained rare metals that could power human colonies for centuries. Without these resources, human settlements would slowly die as their equipment broke down and could not be repaired. Hyun-woo entered the council chamber and took his assigned seat in the back corner. The room was enormous, with curved walls that stretched up toward a crystal dome. Hundreds of alien delegates filled the main floor, their strange forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. Some looked like giant insects with multiple arms. Others appeared as flowing energy beings that shifted between different forms. A few resembled Earth animals, but with wrong proportions and extra limbs. At the center of the chamber sat the High Council. These were the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The Velkari Prime Minister Thexgoth dominated the central seat. His species looked like oversized lizards with purple scales and 6 yellow eyes. Next to him sat Counselor Zeftar of the Hegemony, a creature that seemed to be made of living metal with a voice like grinding gears. Dr. Sujin Park sat beside Hyun-woo. She was Earth's chief scientist who studied alien life forms. Her job was to help humans understand how different species thought and acted. Today, she watched the aliens carefully while pretending to take notes on her tablet. In the very back of the human section sat Admiral Taeho Lee. He wore a simple gray uniform without any fancy decorations. Most aliens ignored him completely, thinking he was just another low-level human official. They had no idea he commanded Earth's entire space fleet. The council session began with the usual ceremony. Different species sang their traditional songs or performed ritual dances. The humans sat quietly and waited. They had learned that showing any impatience would only make the aliens angry. Finally, Prime Minister Thexgoth called for Earth's petition to be heard. Hyun-woo stood and walked to the speaking platform at the center of the chamber. He placed his datapad on the reading stand and began his presentation. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he said, his voice steady and clear. "Humanity comes before you today with a simple request. We ask for mining rights in the Kepler 442 system. We have completed all required studies. We have paid all fees. We have followed every regulation." He touched his datapad and holographic images appeared in the air above the platform. The images showed detailed maps of the system, environmental, impact studies, and financial projections. Earth had spent billions of credits and thousands of work hours preparing this presentation. "Our colonies are running short of essential materials," Hyun-woo continued. "Without access to these resources, human settlements will begin failing within the next 5 years. We are not asking for special treatment. We simply want the same rights that other species receive." When he finished speaking, the chamber fell silent. Then Prime Minister Thexgoth began to laugh. It was a horrible sound, like glass breaking, mixed with the hiss of escaping gas. Other council members joined in, creating a chorus of alien amusement. "Primitive species must earn their place," Thexgoth said, his 6 eyes glowing with mockery. "Humans have been part of our galactic community for only 10 years. Other species waited centuries before receiving such privileges. Perhaps in another 100 years, when you have proven your worth, we will consider your request again." Counselor Zeftar leaned forward, his metal body creaking. "The Kepler 442 system contains resources too valuable to waste on an unproven species. The Velkari have submitted a proposal to build resort colonies there. This would benefit the entire galaxy, not just one small group of worlds. Hyun-woo felt his heart sink, but he kept his expression neutral. Honored counselor, with respect, humans have contributed greatly to galactic society. Our medical research has saved millions of lives across dozens of species. Our agricultural techniques have ended famines on enough. Thex Goth slammed one of his clawed hands on his desk. You bring us plants and simple medicines, children playing with dirt and weeds. When you can build ships that travel between galaxies, when you can manipulate matter at the quantum level, when you can create new forms of life itself, then you may request such valuable resources. The other aliens murmured their agreement. Some made sounds that might have been laughter. Others simply ignored the humans entirely, already discussing other business among themselves. Dr. Soo-Jin Park watched this display with growing interest. Her tablet was not actually recording notes about the meeting. Instead, it was running sophisticated scans of every alien in the chamber. She measured their heart rates, brain activity, and stress hormone levels. What she discovered was fascinating. The aliens were not just dismissing humanity out of simple prejudice. They were genuinely afraid. Their biological readings showed the same patterns she had seen in cornered animals back on Earth. They were scared of human potential, so they worked. Hard to keep humans weak and dependent. But there was something else her scans revealed. Every species in the council chamber shared certain genetic markers. They had all evolved in similar environments with similar pressures. This made them predictable in ways they did not realize. In the back of the chamber, Admiral Tae-ho Lee sat, perfectly still. His face showed no emotion as he listened to the aliens mock his species, but his eyes were busy. He counted security guards, noted the positions of emergency exits, and memorized the faces of every council member. The Admiral had fought in wars before humans ever knew aliens existed. He understood that sometimes enemies revealed more about themselves when they thought they were winning than when they were trying to hide their weaknesses. The final insult came when Counselor Zeftar made an announcement that was not even on the day's schedule. The Council has decided that human colonies in the Tau Ceti, Wolf 359, and Glisa 667C systems will be relocated to make room for expanded Velkari resort development. Humans will be given new settlement rights in less desirable systems closer to the galactic rim. The casual way he said it made it even worse. Millions of humans would be forced from their homes, their cities destroyed, their lives uprooted. And the aliens discussed it like they were rearranging furniture. Hyun-woo closed his datapad slowly. He looked around the chamber one last time, memorizing the faces of every alien who had voted to destroy human lives for the sake of vacation resorts. We withdraw our petition, he said quietly. Earth will handle this matter independently. Most of the aliens barely noticed when the human delegation stood up and walked out. They were already moving on to other business, already forgetting that humans had ever been there. They did not see Admiral Lee's subtle hand signal to the hidden recording devices that had captured every word of the meeting. They did not notice Dr. Park slipping small sample containers into her jacket pockets. They missed the tiny smile that crossed Hyun-woo's face as the chamber doors closed behind them. The Galactic Council had made their decision. Now it was time for humanity to make theirs. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the Galactic Council chamber. The galaxy continued its normal business as if nothing had changed. Trade ships moved between star systems carrying goods and passengers. The Velkari began construction on their new resort worlds. The hegemony expanded their mining operations into 3 more systems. The aliens barely remembered the quiet species that had stopped attending council meetings. Human tribute payments still arrived on schedule from the outer colonies. Human trade ships still requested permission before entering alien space. Everything seemed normal. On Earth, however, things were far from normal. Dr. Min-ho Choi, worked in a laboratory buried 300 meters beneath the streets of Seoul. The facility did not appear on any official maps. According to government records, the building above was a simple medical research center that studied plant diseases. Minho stared at the sample under his microscope and smiled. For 5 months, he had been studying the biological materials that Dr. Soo-Jin Park had secretly collected during their visit to the Galactic Council station. Hair follicles, skin cells, and saliva samples from dozens of different alien species. The breakthrough had come at 3 in the morning on a cold Tuesday. Minho was running his 500th genetic analysis when he noticed something incredible. Every species in the Galactic Council shared common genetic markers. They had all evolved on worlds with similar atmospheres and environments. This made them more alike than they realized. More importantly, it made them vulnerable in ways they never suspected. Minho picked up his phone and called his assistant. "Bring me everything we have on Earth's genetically modified wheat," he said. I found something interesting." 3 hours later, Minho was staring at a computer screen filled with protein sequences and genetic codes. Earth's farmers had been modifying wheat for decades to make it more nutritious and resistant to disease. The modifications were completely safe for humans and Earth animals. But for aliens who had evolved in sterile galactic environments, these same proteins would cause severe immune system reactions. Not deadly reactions, but enough to make them very sick for several weeks. Minho began designing a delivery system. The wheat would need to be processed into flour, then baked into bread and other foods. The aliens would never suspect that their daily meals were making them weak. Across the city, Captain Yoon Young Song supervised the retrofit of the cargo ship Peaceful Harvest. According to all official documents, the ship was a civilian agricultural vessel designed to transport grain between Earth and alien colonies. The aliens who inspected the ship saw exactly what they expected to see: large cargo holds filled with wheat, corn, and rice, standard life support systems, basic navigation equipment, a small crew of farmers and agricultural specialists. They never looked closely at the cargo hold walls, which were 3 times thicker than necessary. They did not scan the grain storage containers that could actually hold something much more dangerous than wheat. They missed the hidden communication equipment disguised as farming sensors. Most importantly, they never realized that Captain Song was not actually a farmer. She was a former Special Forces commander who had volunteered for this mission because she understood what was at stake. "How long until we reach the Velkari homeworld?" Song asked her navigation officer. 18 days at current speed, the officer replied. "All cargo is secure and ready for delivery." Song nodded. The Velkari had specifically requested this shipment of Earth grain for their expanding population. They had no idea they were about to receive much more than they bargained for. Meanwhile, on the other side of Earth, Commander Won-Sik Jang coordinated with human agents scattered across the galaxy. For 30 years, Earth had been quietly placing cultural attachés and trade representatives in every major alien system. The aliens had never bothered to screen these positions carefully because they considered humans too primitive to be dangerous. Cultural attachés were just supposed to help human colonists adapt to alien customs. Trade representatives simply processed shipping documents and negotiated simple business deals. In reality, these agents had been mapping alien infrastructure, studying their military procedures, and building networks of human contacts throughout the galaxy. Won-Sik looked at the star map covering one entire wall of his underground command center. Red dots marked every human agent currently in position. Blue lines showed communication networks. Yellow symbols indicated key infrastructure targets. "Status report from Agent Ko Woon on Velkari Prime," his communications officer announced. Won-Sik pressed a button and heard the voice of a woman who was supposed to be helping human tourists understand Velkari art and culture. "Package delivery is confirmed for next week," Ko Woon said. using code words they had practiced for years. Reception committee is ready. All safety protocols are in place. 1-6 smiled. Ko-Woon had spent 5 years earning the trust of Velkari government officials. She attended their cultural events, learned their language perfectly, and even dated a few of their diplomats. The aliens saw her as a harmless human who was fascinated by their superior civilization. They had no idea she was actually a former intelligence officer who had been documenting their government's daily routines, including what they ate for breakfast. Across the Pacific Ocean, Fleet Admiral So-Young Kwon studied battle reports in her office at Earth's Naval Command Center. But these were not reports of human battles. These were detailed analyses of every military conflict the Galactic Council had fought over the past 2 centuries. The pattern was disturbing and revealing at the same time. The aliens had incredible technology, but they had never learned to fight dirty. Their entire military doctrine was based on formal declarations of war, honorable combat, and following established rules of engagement. They announced their attacks in advance. They targeted only military installations. They gave civilians time to evacuate before destroying cities. They treated captured enemies according to strict protocols. In human terms, they fought like medieval knights who had never heard of guerrilla warfare. So-Young had been studying warfare since she was old. Enough to read. She knew about the Mongol invasions, the American Revolution, World War II, and dozens of other conflicts where smaller forces had defeated larger ones through unconventional tactics. The aliens had technology, but humans had imagination. Admiral, her aide knocked on the door. The shipyard reports are ready for your review. So-Young opened the files and smiled. According to official records, Earth was decommissioning old military vessels and converting them for civilian use. The Galactic Council had specifically ordered this as part of humanity's tribute requirements. The aliens received detailed reports, showing human warships being stripped of weapons and refitted with mining equipment, scientific instruments, and cargo holds. What the reports did not mention was that the new equipment could be removed very quickly when necessary. A mining laser could become a weapon with the flip of a switch. Scientific sensor arrays could detect and jam enemy communications. Cargo holds could carry military supplies instead of trade goods. Most importantly, the aliens had stopped monitoring human ship movements because they believed the vessels were no longer dangerous. Engineer Dong-Hyun Bae worked in the Galactic Communication Center on Luna, Earth's moon. His official job was maintaining the quantum relay systems that allowed instant communication across the galaxy. The aliens had given him this position because they needed someone to do boring technical work that their own people did not want to do. For 6 months, Dong-Hyun had been mapping every communication node, every backup system, and every security protocol in the galactic network. He knew exactly how information flowed between different alien governments and military forces. More importantly, he had been installing small modifications to the relay equipment. Nothing obvious or detectable, just tiny changes to routing software that would redirect communications when activated by a specific signal. The aliens trusted him because humans were supposed to be too primitive to understand advanced quantum communication technology. They never suspected that Dong-Hyun had a doctorate in quantum physics and had been working on communication systems since before first contact with alien civilizations. Dr. Soo-Jin Park returned from another diplomatic mission to the hegemony, homeworld. According to her official reports, she had been studying their unique crystalline life forms for a research project on alien biology. In reality, she had been collecting more biological samples and studying how different alien species interacted with each other. Her research had revealed something fascinating about the galactic power structure. The aliens were not actually united. The Velkari and hegemony pretended to work together, but they secretly competed for resources and influence. Other species in the council had their own hidden agendas and private conflicts. Most importantly, they all shared the same weakness: They had grown soft from centuries of easy dominance. They had never faced a real challenge to their authority. Sujin compiled her findings into a detailed report that would never appear in any official database. The report outlined exactly how to turn the aliens' own prejudices and assumptions against them. As winter approached on Earth, the final pieces of humanity's plan were falling into place. The cargo ship, Peaceful Harvest, arrived at Velkari Prime on a sunny morning, when two of the planet's three suns were shining brightly. Captain Yun-Young Song watched through the bridge windows as the massive alien city came into view. Tall crystal towers reached toward the sky, connected by floating bridges that glowed with soft purple light. To any observer, this was just another routine trade delivery. Earth grain shipments arrived at Velkari Prime every 6 weeks, carrying wheat, rice, and corn to feed the growing alien population. The Velkari had developed a taste for human food because it was cheaper than their traditional diet. Song's ship passed through the standard security checks without any problems. The Velkari inspectors came aboard, scanned the cargo holds, and checked the shipping documents. They found exactly what they expected: tons of Earth grain packed in standard storage containers. "Everything appears to be in order," the lead inspector told Song in accented human language. "You may proceed to the main cargo terminal." What the inspectors did not know was that Dr. Min-Ho Choi had spent months modifying this particular batch of wheat. The grain looked normal, smelled normal, and would even taste normal when baked into bread. But hidden in its genetic structure were protein sequences that would cause severe reactions in alien immune systems. The modifications were so subtle that even advanced alien scanners could not detect them. The proteins would only become active after the grain was processed into flour and exposed to the specific temperatures used in Velkari baking methods. Song supervised the unloading of her cargo, making sure every container reached its proper destination. Some went to government food distribution centers. Others were delivered to military bases. The finest quality grain was sent to the exclusive restaurants where high-ranking Velkari officials liked to eat. Within 24 hours, the modified wheat had been processed into thousands of loaves of bread, bags of flour, and other food products. The Velkari loved human grain because it made their food taste better and cost much less than traditional ingredients. 3 days later, Prime Minister Thex Goth was in the middle of an important meeting with his military advisors when he suddenly felt dizzy. His 6 yellow eyes lost focus and his purple scales turned a sickly gray color. Within minutes, he was too weak to stand. The same thing was happening all across Velkari Prime. Government officials collapsed during speeches. Military commanders fell ill while reviewing battle plans. Even the security guards at the most important facilities became too sick to work properly. The Velkari doctors were completely confused. The symptoms looked like food poisoning, but every food source tested clean. The illness was not spreading like a virus or bacteria. It only affected Velkari who had eaten products made from the latest Earth grain shipment. But the grain had passed every safety test. There was no logical explanation for what was happening. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Engineer Dong-Hyun Bae sat in his control room at the Galactic Communications Center. His computer screens showed the normal flow of messages between different alien worlds. Everything looked peaceful and routine. At exactly 1200 hours Earth time, Dong-Hyun typed a single command into his computer. The small modifications he had been installing for months suddenly activated across the entire galactic communication network. The changes were so subtle that no one noticed them at first. Messages still moved between planets at the speed of light. Voice calls still connected without delays. Video conferences still worked perfectly. But every message was now being routed through communication nodes controlled by human agents. Instead of going directly from sender to receiver, all communications made tiny detours through human monitoring stations. This meant that humans could read every message, listen to every call, and watch every video transmission between alien, governments, and military forces. More importantly, it meant that human agents could delay, redirect, or completely block any communication they chose. The first test came when a Valkyrie military base tried to report their commander's mysterious illness to fleet headquarters. The message left the base's communication array normally, traveled through space at light speed, and reached the relay station exactly as expected. But instead of being forwarded to its destination, the message was quietly filed away in a human database. Fleet headquarters never received the report. As far as they knew, everything was normal at the base. Similar communication failures began happening throughout Valkyrie space. Emergency medical requests disappeared into the void. Military status reports never reached their intended recipients. Even simple administrative messages seemed to get lost in the network. The Valkyrie communication technicians ran diagnostic tests on their equipment, but everything appeared to be functioning correctly. The problems seemed random and unpredictable, which made them impossible to fix. On hegemony worlds, a different kind of crisis was developing. Agent Ko-woon had spent years building relationships with key government officials, learning their routines and gaining access to restricted areas. Now that trust was paying off in ways the aliens never expected, Ko-woon worked as a cultural liaison in the hegemony capital city, helping human visitors understand local customs. Her office was located inside the main government complex, just 3 floors below the Planetary Defense Command Center. For months, she had been using her security clearance to install small devices throughout the building. The devices looked like standard human translation equipment designed to help humans communicate with the metallic hegemony species. The aliens had approved their installation because they made diplomatic meetings more efficient. In reality, the devices were sophisticated, signal jammers that could disrupt the quantum processors used in hegemony computer systems. When activated simultaneously, they would create interference patterns that would confuse navigation systems and communication networks. Ko-woon checked her watch and activated the devices at the predetermined time. Across the hegemony homeworld, military bases suddenly lost contact with their spacecraft. Navigation computers began providing incorrect coordinates. Even the planetary defense grid went offline for several minutes before backup systems could take over. The hegemony engineers worked frantically to identify the source of the interference, but the jamming signals seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. By the time they realized the signals were originating from inside their own government buildings, the damage was already done. Admiral Tae-ho Lee observed these developments from his command center on Earth. Multiple screens showed the status of human operations across the galaxy. Green lights indicated successful missions. Yellow lights showed operations in progress. Red lights would indicate problems or failures. So far, every light was green. Fleet Admiral So Young-kwan activated the next phase of the plan. Human ships that the aliens believed were harmless civilian vessels suddenly changed course and began moving toward strategic positions throughout the galaxy. The Peaceful Harvest and dozens of other cargo ships were already inside alien space, having delivered their biological weapons disguised as food shipments. Now they began the second part of their mission. Captain Song's crew quickly removed the false panels from their cargo holds, revealing advanced sensor equipment and communication jammers. Within hours, the ship had transformed from a simple grain transport into a sophisticated electronic warfare vessel. Similar transformations were taking place on human ships across the galaxy. Mining vessels revealed hidden weapon systems. Scientific research ships activated military-grade sensors. Even passenger transports began broadcasting jamming signals that disrupted alien communication networks. The aliens had insisted that humans disarm their fleet as part of the tribute requirements. They had watched carefully as human warships were supposedly converted to civilian use, but they had never bothered to verify that the conversions were permanent. By the end of the first day, the Valkyrie government was paralyzed by the mysterious illness affecting their leadership. Their military forces could not communicate with each other or with their home base. Their navigation systems were providing false information that sent ships to the wrong locations. The hegemony faced similar problems. Their quantum computer networks were crashing randomly. Their spacecraft were getting lost in space because their navigation systems had been compromised. Even their ground-based communication systems were unreliable. Other alien species throughout the galaxy were experiencing various technical difficulties. Power grids failed without explanation. Communication satellites went offline. Transportation networks experienced mysterious delays and cancellations. But the most disturbing part was the silence. When alien governments tried to contact each other for help, their messages never arrived. When military commanders attempted to coordinate responses, their orders were lost in the communication network. From the aliens' perspective, it seemed like their entire civilization was falling apart at the same time, for no apparent reason. They had no idea that every problem was carefully planned and executed by the species they had dismissed as too primitive to be dangerous. Dr. Soo-Jin Park monitored the biological effects of the modified wheat from her laboratory on Earth. Chancellor Dalmoth of the Galactic Council crouched in his emergency bunker deep beneath the council station. The massive alien looked nothing like the confident leader who had dismissed humanity's requests just months earlier. His tentacle-like arms shook as he read report after report of disasters happening across the galaxy. The Velkari government had completely collapsed. Prime Minister Thexgoth and his entire cabinet were too sick to leave their beds. Military commanders across Velkari space lay helpless in medical facilities, struck down by a mysterious illness that no doctor could explain or cure. The hegemony was in chaos. Their advanced computer networks kept crashing for no apparent reason. Entire fleets of warships drifted lost in space because their navigation systems provided wrong coordinates. Ground-based communication arrays worked perfectly, but somehow messages never reached their destinations. Similar disasters were happening on dozens of other worlds. Power grids failed without warning. Transportation systems broke down. Communication networks experienced impossible problems that made no sense to the best alien engineers. Most frightening of all was the silence. Dalmoth had been trying for 3 days to contact other council members, but his messages seemed to disappear into empty space. When he sent emergency signals to military bases, no one responded. It was as if the entire galactic government had suddenly stopped existing. Dalmoth's personal guard stood nervously near the bunker entrance. These were elite soldiers from 5 different species, trained to protect council members from any possible threat. But they looked confused and scared because they could not identify what they were supposed to be fighting. "Sir," one of the guards reported, "we have detected an incoming transmission on all emergency frequencies." Dalmoth straightened up with hope. Finally, someone was making contact. Maybe the other council members had found a secure way to communicate. Maybe the military forces had regrouped and were ready to restore order. "Put it on the main screen," Dalmoth ordered. The large display screen flickered to life, and Dalmoth felt his blood turn cold. Instead of seeing another alien leader or military commander, he was looking at the face of Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim. The human looked exactly the same as he had during that final council meeting months ago. His black diplomatic suit was perfectly neat. His expression was calm and professional, but something was different about his eyes. The patient submission that aliens expected from humans was completely gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. "Greetings," Hyun-Woo said in perfect galactic standard. His voice was pleasant and polite, but there was steel underneath the diplomatic tone. "You may remember us as the primitive species you have been exploiting for the past decade. We are calling to inform you that all diplomatic relations have been permanently severed." Dalmoth tried to respond, but realized he could not transmit back. He was receiving the signal, but his communication equipment would not send anything out. He could only watch and listen as the human continued speaking. Dr. Soo-Jin Park stepped into view beside Hyun-Woo. She was holding a small glass container filled with clear liquid. Dalmoth recognized her as the quiet scientist who had sat in the back during council meetings, the one who never spoke and seemed to spend her time taking notes. "The biological agent currently affecting your leadership will dissipate in approximately 2 weeks," she said with the same calm tone doctors used when discussing simple medical procedures. "No permanent damage will occur, though I am sure the experience has been educational." Dalmoth stared at the container in her hand. The mysterious illness that had crippled the Velkari government was not some natural disaster or cosmic accident. The humans had deliberately poisoned the most powerful leaders in the galaxy. But how was that possible? The Velkari food supplies were tested constantly. The grain shipments from Earth had passed every security check. There was no way primitive humans could have created a biological weapon sophisticated enough to fool advanced alien medical scanners. Admiral Taeho Lee appeared on screen, wearing the same simple gray uniform he had worn during council meetings. Dalmoth had barely noticed him before, thinking he was just another low-level human official. Now the human's casual confidence was terrifying. "Your fleets are unharmed but temporarily inconvenienced," Lee said, as if discussing a minor scheduling problem. "We have simply borrowed your navigation systems and communication networks. Think of it as overdue payment for the tribute you have been extracting from human colonies." Dalmoth's mind raced as he tried to understand what he was hearing. The humans had somehow taken control of the galaxy's most advanced computer systems. They were manipulating communications across dozens of star systems. They had turned the aliens' own technology against them. The true scope of humanity's operation became clear as Hyunwoo continued his explanation. "You have spent centuries believing that technological superiority equals intelligence. You have forgotten that the most dangerous species is not always the most advanced. Sometimes it is the one you did not bother to watch carefully." Images began appearing on the screen behind the human speakers. Dalmoth saw footage of human agents working in alien facilities, wearing the uniforms of cultural attachés and trade representatives. He watched human ships transforming from harmless cargo vessels into sophisticated military platforms. He saw human engineers modifying communication equipment while alien supervisors ignored them completely. "For years, you allowed us to place our people throughout your governments and military forces," Hyunwoo explained. "You gave us access to your most sensitive facilities because you believed we were too primitive to understand what we were seeing. You trusted us with your communication networks because you thought we lacked the knowledge to manipulate them." The images showed human agents in positions Dalmoth recognized. The friendly cultural liaison who had worked in the hegemony government complex for 5 years. The quiet engineer who maintained communication systems on the council station. The harmless agricultural specialists who delivered food to alien worlds. Every single one of them had been a trained operative working to map alien weaknesses and prepare for this moment. "You insisted that we disarm our military forces as part of our tribute payments," Admiral Lee added. "You watched us convert our warships to civilian use, but you never verified that those conversions could not be reversed." More images appeared, showing human ships rapidly transforming from mining vessels and cargo transports back into fully armed warships. The aliens had demanded that humanity give up its ability to defend itself, but the humans had found ways to hide their military capability in plain sight. Dr. Park stepped forward again, still holding her small container. "Our biological research revealed that all council species share common genetic vulnerabilities due to similar evolutionary pressures. Your sterile galactic environment made you susceptible to proteins that are harmless to species from more diverse worlds like Earth." Dalmoth realized with growing horror that the humans had been studying alien biology for years, looking for weaknesses that could be exploited. The friendly scientific exchanges, the medical research cooperation, the agricultural trade agreements, all of it had been cover for a massive intelligence-gathering operation. "Your communication networks were surprisingly easy to compromise," Engineer Dong-hyun Bae said, appearing on screen for the first time. Dalmoth had never seen this human before, but he was apparently the one responsible for the galaxy-wide Communication failures. You built everything for efficiency and convenience, not security. You never considered that a species you dismissed as primitive might be capable of quantum network manipulation. The human engineer's words hit like physical blows. The aliens had created the most advanced communication system in galactic history, but they had never protected it against enemies they thought were too stupid to be threats. Hyun-woo returned to the center of the screen for his final statement. You treated us as a resource to be exploited rather than a civilization to be respected. You moved our people from their homes to make room for your vacation resorts. You demanded tribute that impoverished entire human worlds. You dismissed our contributions to galactic society as worthless. The ambassador's calm voice carried centuries of human anger and frustration. Today, you discovered the price of underestimating an enemy. We are not seeking revenge or conquest. We simply want you to understand that humanity will no longer accept being treated as inferior. The transmission ended with a simple message that appeared in text across the screen. Humanity withdraws from all galactic treaties and accords. Future contact will be on our terms. Dalmuth stared at the blank screen in stunned silence. In the space of a few days, the species he had dismissed as primitive had demonstrated capabilities that surpassed anything the Galactic Council had ever achieved. They had crippled multiple star-spanning civilizations without firing a single shot or causing a single death. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through superior technology or overwhelming force. They had won by being smarter, more patient, and more creative than anyone had imagined possible. For the first time in his long life, Chancellor Dalmoth understood what it meant to be truly afraid. 3 months had passed since humanity's broadcast shocked the galaxy into silence. The gleaming halls of the former Galactic Council station now served a very different purpose. Where alien delegates had once made decisions affecting billions of lives, human diplomats now worked to create a more balanced future. President Ji-hoon An stood at the podium in what had been the main council chamber. The room looked almost the same as before, with its curved walls and crystal dome reaching toward the stars. But the seating arrangement had changed dramatically. The elevated platform where the alien High Council had once sat was now empty. Instead, representatives from all species sat at the same level, facing each other as equals. The alien delegates who had once ignored humanity now listened carefully to every word President An spoke. They sat in chairs that had previously been reserved for observers, learning what it felt like to have reduced influence in galactic affairs. The age of tribute and exploitation is over, President An announced to the assembled representatives. His voice was calm but firm, carrying the authority of a species that had proven its strength. The new Galactic Assembly will operate on principles of mutual respect and equal representation. Prime Minister Thexgoth sat in the third row, his purple scales still slightly pale from his recent illness. The Velkari leader, who had once mocked humanity's requests, now waited nervously to hear what terms the humans would offer. He had learned during those 2 weeks of helplessness that underestimating an enemy could have terrible consequences. Chancellor Dalmoth shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The former head of the Galactic Council was now just another member of the Assembly with no more authority than representatives from the smallest species. His tentacle-like arms trembled slightly as he remembered the fear he had felt while trapped in his bunker, completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. Trade Minister Yeon Seo Kim approached the podium carrying a thick folder of documents. She had spent months negotiating new commercial agreements with alien governments that were suddenly eager to cooperate with humanity. The new trade accords ensure fair exchange between all species, she explained, opening her folder. Human colonies will no longer pay tribute to alien governments. Instead, we propose balanced partnerships that benefit everyone involved. She gestured to a holographic display showing trade routes throughout the galaxy. Earth's agricultural products will continue to supply alien worlds, but at fair market prices. In exchange, human colonies will gain access to alien technology and resources through legitimate business deals rather than charity or exploitation. The alien representatives nodded quickly, afraid to object to anything the humans proposed. They had seen what happened to civilizations that treated humanity as inferior. None of them wanted to risk becoming the next target of human creativity and patience. Dr. Min-Ho Choi sat in the Assembly's scientific advisory section, no longer, hiding in underground laboratories. He had become the galaxy's most respected expert on interspecies biology, his research helping to prevent the kind of biological incompatibilities that had caused the recent crisis. My team has developed new food safety protocols that will protect all species from accidental contamination, Dr. Choi reported to the Assembly. We are also working on medical treatments that can help different species live and work together more safely. His words carried a subtle reminder that humanity now possessed detailed knowledge of every alien species' biological weaknesses. The threat was never stated directly, but everyone in the chamber understood the implications. The same scientific knowledge that had created targeted biological weapons could also create cures and treatments that would benefit everyone. Humanity was offering to use their capabilities for peace rather than war, but the choice was theirs to make. Captain Yoon Young Song commanded humanity's new exploration fleet from the bridge of her flagship, the New Horizon. The ship had been openly converted from a cargo vessel into a military explorer, equipped with the best technology humanity could build. Song watched her navigation displays as her fleet prepared to enter the Outer Rim territories. These were regions of space the old Galactic Council had declared too dangerous for lesser species to explore. Radiation storms, unstable star systems, and hostile alien life forms made the area extremely hazardous. But humans had always been willing to take risks that other species avoided. Song's fleet consisted of volunteers who wanted to discover what lay beyond the boundaries the aliens had set for galactic civilization. Captain, her science officer reported, we are detecting signs of habitable worlds in the Kepler 1649 system. The radiation levels are manageable with our shielding technology. Song smiled. Humanity was no longer asking permission to explore new systems or establish colonies in promising locations. They were taking the initiative and going where they wanted to go. Set course for Kepler 1649, she ordered. It is time to see what else is out there. Back on the council station, Ambassador Hyun-Woo Kim worked in his new office as Earth's prime representative. The title was similar to his old position, but his authority was completely different. Instead of begging for scraps from alien governments, he now negotiated as an equal with leaders who respected humanity's power. A communication request came in from the hegemony homeworld. Counselor Zeftar appeared on the screen, his metallic form seeming smaller and less impressive than it had during the old council meetings. Prime Representative Kim, Zeftar said, his mechanical voice carrying notes of nervousness. The hegemony wishes to discuss expanding our trade relationship with human colonies. Hyun-Woo nodded politely. We are always interested in mutually beneficial arrangements, Counselor. What did you have in mind? We would like to purchase Earth's quantum communication technology, Zeftar admitted. Our networks are still experiencing difficulties since the recent incidents. The admission was humiliating for the proud hegemony leader. His species had always believed their technology was superior to anything humans could create. Now, he was asking to buy human innovations to fix his own civilization's problems. I will discuss your request with our Technology Council, Hyun-Woo replied diplomatically. We may be able to arrange something, assuming the hegemony is willing to offer fair compensation. Fleet Admiral So-Young Kwan observed the galaxy's transformation from her command center on Earth. Multiple screens showed the positions of human ships throughout known space, no longer hiding their military capabilities or pretending to be harmless. Civilian vessels. The display showed green dots representing human colonies that were now free to govern themselves without alien interference. Blue lines marked trade routes that operated on fair terms, rather than exploitative tribute systems. Yellow symbols indicated exploration missions pushing into previously forbidden regions of space. Most importantly, red warning markers showed the locations of alien military forces that were keeping a respectful distance from human operations. The galaxy's former rulers had learned to treat humanity as a peer rather than a subject. "Admiral," her communications officer announced, "we are receiving a priority message from the Outer Rim expedition." Captain Song's voice came through clearly, without any of the communication delays that had once plagued human operations. "We have discovered something incredible out here. An entire system of worlds that appear to have been abandoned by an unknown alien civilization. The technology is unlike anything we have seen before." So Young smiled. Humanity was no longer limited to the scraps and leftovers that alien governments were willing to share. They were finding new opportunities and making their own discoveries in regions where no other species dared to venture. Dr. Soo-Jin Park worked in her new laboratory aboard the Council Station, officially serving as the Assembly's chief biological advisor. Her research had taken on a different focus since humanity's rise to power. Instead of secretly studying alien weaknesses, she was openly working to improve relationships between different species. "I have completed the analysis of the Zephyrian delegation's dietary requirements," she reported to Ambassador Kim. "They can safely consume most human food products, but we should avoid anything containing high levels of copper." Her work was helping to prevent the kind of accidental poisoning that had once been used as a weapon. Humanity was demonstrating that their scientific knowledge could be used to build bridges rather than create divisions. But everyone knew that Dr. Park's research could easily be turned toward more aggressive purposes if necessary. The galaxy's leaders worked hard to maintain good relationships with humanity because they remembered what had happened to those who had treated humans as enemies. As the months passed, the galaxy settled into its new reality. Alien civilizations that had once dominated through superior technology and military force now competed through innovation and fair trade. Species that had been ignored or exploited under the old system found new opportunities in humanity's more balanced approach to galactic governance. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through violence or intimidation. They had simply demonstrated that intelligence, patience, and creativity could triumph over arrogance and prejudice. Most importantly, they had proven that the most dangerous enemy was not always the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology.